welcome to the Five Things Podcast, the podcast when we talk about five things. This week's episode is going to be all about sports. We just had the Super Bowl yesterday. It's time to kick off, see what I did there. Our week with just some wacky sports. This took me an entire 8 seconds to do.
It took me longer, but I know very few sports. So
I love me some wacky sports. I try to go as unmainstream as possible. Almost everything on my list I don't think has a regular league except for one of them. How do we want to decide who goes first here?
We go with the sport that takes the longest to play a single match. A single set of it. We could go with the oldest sport.
I think oldest sport's gonna be tough because a lot of I don't know about your sports. My sports are all real old to a point where it's kind of hard to figure out exactly how old they are.
Well, then I think you win that one because my oldest sport is definitely hurling, by a long shot. So,
I mean, that might still be.
Spoilers for one of my things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm literally wearing a hurling jersey, so if that's going to give away a
Sure.
little bit of what we're going to do here.
Oh, man. I should have changed into a hurling jersey. I didn't think about it.
Yeah. I had to carry my entire rig to a sports stadium for this.
Yeah. It's impressive that you broke into the one soccer stadium in all of Indianapolis.
Yeah, I was going to say, too, whatever assumedly European soccer stadium this is.
Yeah. You can go first.
Okay.
Really. I went first the last two times, pretty sure.
Number 5.
Love that voice.
My number 5. It's one of my favorites. It's wife carrying. Wife carrying is I forget what country this is original in. I meant to write notes for all of these because there's just so much weirdness and yeah. So it's an annual race. You have to carry your wife. I think it can be a girlfriend. I think it just has to be a significant other. I don't think you have a proof of marriage or anything. And if you win, you get their weight in beer.
Nice.
That's the prize.
It's the best prize.
And I gotta believe certain husbands are probably doing some math. You know what I mean? How fast can I finish this race with the largest woman I can find to get the most beer for winning? You know what I mean? Because you have a tiny person. That's only 90 pounds of beer. I want 300 pounds of beer, and just get swole and do this race.
It says it originated in Finland, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah, that checks out. I don't know why. It feels like Finland would be into some wife carrying. I did date somebody for a long time who really wanted to do this. Legitimately wanted to go to Finland and compete and try to win a bunch of beer. And it never happened. But I was down. I also think it's hilarious that in all sports, you just always sort of find the most efficient way to do the sport where isn't as fun anymore. Everybody has just figured out you flip your wife over. And
you just carry her reverse piggyback. With her legs over your shoulders.
Yeah.
Like a backpack, like a human backpack.
Just face to butt for however long this race is. But yeah, that's my number 5. It's definitely a wacky one.
It's pretty wacky. My number 5 is Quidditch. People Quidditch, not wizard Quidditch, which I assume is practiced somewhere in Wizard Town.
I'm sorry, in Wizard Town?
Wizard Town,
Indiana, just a nice small town on the west side.
It runs perpendicular to the Wabash. But yeah, so I picked this one because my girlfriend berated me until I agreed to pick this as one of them. People play Quidditch. They just put a stick, they put a broom between their legs, and they run around on a soccer field, and they set up 3 goals. You have to throw the ball through the hoops like you do in theoretically real Quidditch. to make points, and then at the 18-minute mark, a dude who is on neither team has a sock with like a baseball in it that he sticks in his belt, and he just runs around. And or if it's a big guy, he just like shoves people, and they have to try to grab the snitch from him, and that's worth 30 points. Versus the ball to the hoop is worth like I think 5 or something. But Purdue, because Danny and I were from Indiana, was like the champion of the United States Quidditch League for several years, which is crazy to me, but not surprising, honestly.
I went to high school with a guy who was on that team. So it is yeah.
It's a big deal.
Close to
in
home.
certain circles.
Yeah, I know a guy who is a national champion. Not of anything particularly cool, but a national champion all the same.
Post-COVID, I want to get into this just to be the snitch. That sounds fun.
I was assuming just by team. Is it not like one guy on your team is like no?
Nope, there's one snitch.
There's
just
a
like in
third
just
party.
Like the movie. Yeah, there's a dude who's on a person who's on neither team. And at the 18-minute mark, he takes the field, and both teams seekers. I'm not certain. Both teams, I think anybody can get it, or can team up to get it. But I think one person on the team has to actually get it. I don't know. I had the rules up earlier, but I didn't have a full time to go through them, which is something I should do in the future, to be honest, because I'm basing most of my knowledge on this off of Wizard Quidditch, because I've read all the Harry Potter books like twice when I was younger. But I don't think human Quidditch works nearly as close, or Muggle Quidditch, as it were.
It does not. It's been a while. I used to know all the rules to Quidditch. But yeah, you like have to. I got a picture of some college people playing some Quidditch, up on the slide deck here. Yeah, you like have to play with a stick between your legs. Like you have to like pretend to be on a broom the entire time.
Yeah.
There's like just like a bunch of. It's such a weird. It's like everybody who got cut from the Ultimate Frisbee team, and they were like I don't know, too coordinated to do hacky sack, so this was like the next best thing. I mean, I there's a national championship, so you can only shit on it so much, right? Like,
yeah,
these people are in better shape than I am, so good for them, I suppose.
Oh, for sure. You said that people got cut from the Ultimate Frisbee teams. Probably people who just didn't want to practice to be on the Ultimate Frisbee team. We're like, I still want to play a dumb sport, but I don't want to actually show up to stuff.
Yeah, that's fair.
That's why I did anything in college. It's like, this is the easier version of that other thing that requires show up at 8 a.m.
Yeah, just don't do things. That's really the.
Yeah.
Are you gonna go to class? No, it's much easier to just not go to class.
Yes. Well, that was my number 5. It was Quidditch. Man Quidditch.
Man Quidditch.
Human regular man Quidditch.
Man Quidditch.
Ooh.
Number 4.
So I kind of ruined it because I pulled this thing up on my slideshow and I actually moved on before we actually moved on. But it's cheese rolling.
Cheese.
Cheese rolling is hilarious and one of the most deadly sports. It's
what?
Because it's absurdly dangerous just because of how like honestly stupid this activity is. You take you go to this hill. You take a wheel of cheese, and you got a whole bunch of people, and you roll the wheel of cheese first. And the goal is to be the first person to roll down this hill after the wheel of cheese.
So these people seem to be running in the background, not rolling.
They it happens. Like I don't think you technically have to roll, but it's like a steep ass hill. Like everybody on this is going to fall over and start rolling forward. Like it is literally impossible to run. You can't win by just running down this hill. Like the amount of speed you would need makes it impossible. But yeah, I'm gonna look it up really quick because I'm pretty sure the death toll of cheese rolling is way higher than you would think it would be.
The cheese rolling death toll is not something I expected.
Let's see. Oh no one has ever been killed at the cheese roll, though there is an apocryphal story about a runner dropping dead at the end of the race. 4 adults and 4 children were zapped by lightning when a sudden thunderstorm erupted during the cheese roll. Okay, I didn't get that wrong. I knew people had died during the cheese roll. The sport itself did not kill them. Merely God's disappointment with humanity did. And you know what? I get it.
No, that's fair.
But yeah, that's my number 4.
Where is this done at before we skip on to the next thing?
Cheese rolling. Oh, dude, it might also be. Let's see, country of origin.
Is it also Finland?
It might be. This might just be. The exact origin of cheese rolling isn't known. As we'd have started in the early 1800s.
The Cooper's Hill cheese rolling and wake is the annual event held on the spring bank holiday at Cooper's Hill near Gloucester in England. And it's a round of double Gloucester cheese that is sent rolling down the hill.
Well, there you
Makes
go.
sense. Gloucester's a good cheese.
I mean, that's
So England, the English.
The English, they got bored taking over other like countries, and they were like, you know what? Let's roll after some cheese.
Stretching my image.
Yeah, I am.
I tried to center it, but
no, you don't center it. Put it in the corner.
I meant center it for its size. But okay, I'll do that in the future. My number 4. Wait, yes, you already did. My number 4 is hurling, which is a sport very near and dear to Danny and I's heart because we both play hurling. Danny actually prefers Gaelic football. But I think I don't know which one I prefer, to be honest. They're both very fun. Hurling is sillier looking, which is why I think I enjoy it more. You have the hurleys, which are these like small boat paddle looking things that you see these people's hands, and you have a ball that's called a slitter, but is not spelled anything like you would assume to call it that.
Yeah, it's Gaelic, so it's spelled with 7 vowels in a row.
Yeah, it's magical. So I showed up for my first match of this. I showed up for my first match during the season. I joined because I had recently really injured my leg, and the doctor was like, "You should play some sort of sport so that you have like a reason to get out and use your legs so that it'll recover better." And I was talking to Danny. I was like, "I think I'm gonna join a softball league," and he was like, "Nah, join this sport. It's more fun." But the league had already started. So I signed up, and 2 days later, the first game happened, and so I showed up having watched 2 YouTube videos on how to play before I got there. I was terrible because it's a very complex sport to play, to be honest. There's only like 3 rules.
Yeah, it's a hard sport to literally play. Like,
yeah,
you can do whatever you want, but like if you can't throw a ball in the air and smack it dead center of your boat paddle, it just won't go anywhere. Yeah. And you just don't get to pass, and it's really hard to play a field sport if you can't pass.
Yeah, and like to run with the ball, you have to balance the ball on the front part of the boat paddle while you sprint forward, and people can just slam you like shoulder first if they want to while you do that. They can also smack it with their boat paddle, which is again called a hurley, hence hurling.
I like that we just keep calling it a boat paddle.
Well, it's just for people who haven't played this sport before and are going to listen to this in an audio medium. It looks like a small boat paddle. Like it's the only way I know to describe it.
Yeah.
It kind of looks like a cricket bat, but the front half of instead of the whole thing being rectangular.
It's like a wooden axe is usually how it's described. It's roughly a wooden axe. It doesn't really look like an axe. Part of that is I think people trying to like sound cool with their sport. But yeah, it's kind of like a big wooden axe.
Yeah, but to run, you can carry the ball for like 3 steps, but to run with it for any distance, you have to balance the ball on the tip of the wooden axe part, the flat part of it, while you sprint as fast as you can. And then to pass it, you like toss in the air and you smack it. And it's super fun. It's like it's probably the most fun I've ever had playing a sport in my life. And I've played all the American typical sports: football, baseball, basketball, tennis, and even football like soccer here in the States. And this is way more fun. It should be a way more popular sport just in general, but unfortunately it's not. But
yeah,
I love it.
It's tough to get. It's hard to build a sport that doesn't have like a youth league really of any kind. Like people only join later in life. But no, super fun. We might see it again on this list. Who knows?
Hey.
Number 3.
My number 3. I have played this sport. This is the first sport on my list that I have played. It's not hurling. I have done this. I've only done it once. I knew some people in college who did it all the time, and that's chess boxing.
Hey, this might make a return later on the list.
The guy who lived in the room next to me when my sophomore year, when I was when I lived in my fraternity house, was really into chess. Really loved the idea of chess boxing. My roommate actually also they would play chess all the time, and they would chess box sometimes. Like chess boxing was like a thing for a little bit. There wasn't like a full on like fight club, but you would there's a handful of people that would play some chess and then punch each other.
Dude, it's the coolest thing. I looked up like weird sports for this because I wanted to like fill one or two in with something that I didn't know much about. And chess boxing is the one I picked. It comes up later in my list, and we'll just skip over it, I guess, when we get to that point, because I want to talk about it right now. Because it is the coolest thing I've ever heard of. Like, the fact that this isn't the #1 sport during COVID amazes me. It's got everything. It's got chess and boxing. Got violence, and like the Queen's Gambit is a very popular movie currently.
Could you imagine if the Queen's Gambit ended with her like
taking Muay Thai lessons, like
just like fucking foxy boxing, just like beating the shit out of other people?
That'd be amazing. They should make a sequel.
I mean, I'd be down.
They should make a Leprechaun in Space, Leprechaun 4, or Leprechaun in Space type sequel called Queen's Gambit: Enter the Ring, and it's chess boxing, and it's just the same actress, same universe, but chess has gotten much more popular, but so has blood sports, because I think I haven't seen Queen's Gambit yet, but I'm pretty sure it takes place in like the 80s, right, during Cold War.
Somewhere in there, yeah. I have seen it. I couldn't tell you the actual time frame of it.
So the Cold War ended in nuclear fallout, and now to survive, she competes in to the death chess boxing, where if you get checkmated, an axe swings down and cuts your head off, or you have to kill the other person in the ring.
Like Queen's Gambit is just the name of the like spaceship we all had to board to like escape the nuclear holocaust.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, no, the chess boxing champion gets to get on the spaceship before it leaves Earth.
Oh man.
Dude, it's a great film. Writes itself practically.
And the sequel is just still on Earth, right? All the people who were like, we're still pretty good at chess boxing, but like didn't get to make it on the spaceship. And then there's like, this guy should have made it, but like he lost on purpose so that like his son could make it on the ship. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, no. This is definitely, I'm on board.
It's got potential.
Got a lot of potential.
Yeah. But the idea of like you play chess for an amount of time, and then you have a round of boxing, and then you play chess for another time, and you have a round of boxing, and it's the first person to either knock out the other person, or to checkmate the other person in chess, or the referee can decide that they were being too like they were waiting too long to do stuff. Basically, either in the chess part or the boxing part is another way to lose. There's like a timer on how long you can go before you have to make a move in either side of it. This is the coolest thing I've ever heard of. Like, that is the sport. I wish I was good at either of those things.
I couldn't imagine trying to play chess after like
getting punched in the face,
any amount of boxing. Yeah, like just be like, all right, cool, we're back in. What was I doing? Oh, the Sicilian Open. Cool. All right, we're back in it. But yeah, it's my number 3.
My number 3 is Overwatch League. Because video games are sports now, damn it.
I was gonna say we're gonna get some comments on this one, I think.
You know what's definitely not a sport? Fortnite, and Ninja makes millions of dollars doing it. I think video games could be sports now. If you can make that much money doing them, I think they deserve to have a sport league of some sort. I don't know that Overwatch League is the esport. It's my second favorite to watch. I like Smash Brothers better, but I don't know that it will ever, gain prominence due to several things that have happened in the professional Smash Brothers community.
It's also owned by Nintendo. They'll never let it be successful.
Yeah, and also Nintendo goes out of their way to screw over Smash Brothers, even though it was the most popularly watched thing at Evo and a bunch of other stuff. But I just like playing Overwatch. I'll admit I haven't watched as much of Overwatch League as I probably should have to have this on my list, but I've watched probably a dozen matches, and I've watched Worlds twice. So I've also watched some of the League of Legends worlds, but I don't really like League of Legends at all.
As
But
somebody
that's
who's
probably the
been
more
watching
popular of the
Overwatch
two.
League since the day it came out, you can skip a lot of Overwatch League and be okay. Like 80% of Overwatch League is not great. The other 20%
Yeah.
is phenomenal. Like, I wouldn't keep watching it if it was all bad, because the good matches are worth it. But dude, there were some brutal teams that just like could not get it together. Like, I don't know. Did you watch season 1 at all for Overwatch League?
Yes. Yeah. I watched season 1, I watched season 2, and I've watched the most recent season a little bit here and there.
Like the Shanghai Dragons, like not even being up, like they won like a couple of maps. Like they didn't even win a match for the entirety of season 1. Now they're amazing. Now they're like contenders for like to be champions. But like that was like, how do you even let that happen in your league? Like, what are you doing? And then the Titans were like a top team, and then they just like completely dropped everything and like plummeted to the bottom of the league because there's like, I don't know if esports are sports, but esports are super interesting. Like, I am shocked there are not more like dramas about esports, just because it's a bunch of like younger rich people doing just whatever with like video games. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then like Jerry Jones shows up. Like Jerry Jones also owns like an Overwatch League team. And like there's just so much weird like behind the scenes like stuff that goes on, because all of like the trading and like it's just 18-year-olds on Discord, you know, just like talking to each other and trying to like negotiate like $100,000 contracts to play Overwatch. But
It's nuts. It's the dream,
is it? I don't know, man. I feel like esports is so much work. Like I feel like even if you're making like $500,000 a year playing Overwatch, you're
If you're
playing
making,
what, like probably 80 hours a week, do you think? Like how many hours a week do you think these guys are grinding?
oh, at least, yeah, you'd have to be playing it. Yeah, I don't even know. When I played Overwatch the most, I was probably playing 20 or 30 hours a week, and I never got past plat. So,
Yeah. Well, there's all, yeah. You gotta just also be good, I think. Like there's just like a weird innate, similar to actual sports, where
yeah.
you gotta be born with the wrist. If you don't got the wrist, you can't do it.
Yep. Yeah.
All right. Well,
That's my number 3.
Number 2.
my number 2 is a sport we had to look up yesterday because I vaguely remembered it, and it's what inspired this podcast. Florentine football. This sport is crazy. Like actual like, this is the sport that like I used to play rugby, and people who had never seen rugby would try to tell me what they thought rugby was. They're just describing this sport. Florentine football is what somebody who doesn't know what rugby thinks rugby is. Like there's no rules. Like they literally, it's 27 on 27. You play on a massive, it's not like it's a field, but it's not a field because it's all sand. Like you play on sand. You have this giant, like you can see this medicine ball this guy's running with. And it's like a big soccer ball. Like you can kick it pretty far.
I like that they're all wearing silly Renaissance pants for clowns.
Right? Well, that's the thing, is it's like a super ancient sport. That's why I was confused about like what sport was the oldest, because I know that this goes like way back, like the 1700s, if not further. Because yeah, like they all dress up like this. Like everybody dresses up like this. There's like a whole ceremony before the game starts where like people, they look like the Beefeater Gin guy, all come out and do the thing. I know the Beefeater Gym guy's not from Florence, but you get it.
Yeah.
And like literally, you like do mixed martial arts. Like you have 15 forwards, and they're all mixed martial arts guys. Like that's like part of the qualifications, is you have to be like, and they just like punch each other and like actual like wrestle and like do crazy stuff and get into fights. And there's like one ref who only comes onto the field to like reset play. Like if a fight breaks out, the ref will like come out and be like, "Hey, you gotta stop fighting," and then he'll just leave because he doesn't need to be there. There's no rules. It doesn't matter. And like it's crazy. And you get this ball and you gotta throw into a net, If you throw it over the net, the other team scores half a point. If you put it into the net, you score 1 point. Like, people die, like, not like all the time, but like there have definitely been deaths associated with this thing because, like, of course there have been.
Oh yeah, has to be.
Like, you punch some guy in the head, like knock him out, and just like leave him in the middle of like this big sand bowl. You know what I mean? He just bleeds out from his ears.
These dudes are ripped, man. They're crushing it.
Dude, you have to be like 27 on 27 to me implies that for you to run that ball, and I assume even with like passing and whatever else you're trying to do with it, to the other end of this like big sand pit. Sand traditionally not really easy to run on. I mean, these guys are wearing like flat shoes. Like, you can see, it's not like cleats or anything.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if cleats would be helpful in sand or not.
I don't think they would be. I think that's probably why you don't wear it. But like, that's what I'm saying. Is like, there's probably not a ton of traction regardless. So are you gonna juke 27 people? You know what I mean? Like, no, you're not. Like, it's really hard to score, I imagine. Like,
This is what Gronk should do now. When he finally retires from football, Gronk should just play this sport.
Dude, Gronk would like revolutionize Florentine football. He just have like that big dumb grin on his face the entire time, just like plowing through people. But yeah, this is my number 2. It's the only sport I probably would never play. Like, I want to play. I want to tell myself I could play this, but like, there's no way. I would die. Like, I couldn't make it. I would get like 10 minutes in, would just collapse from exhaustion. Like, there's no way.
Yeah, I'd get knocked out in like 2 minutes. I feel like I'd go up against one giant, like, built Italian MMA master, and he'd punch me in the face, and I'd be like, I want to go home.
Yeah.
It's not worth the clout.
Oh yeah, there's no subs. Also, if you get hurt, you're just out.
Wow.
Like, you start 27 on 27, and you probably end like 10 on 10. Like, you just like lose half your team.
It's the human version of Twisted Metal. You can win by scoring the most points, or just killing the enemy team.
Yeah. Which might be a strategy. It might just be like, if I just break enough noses, we'll get to score more, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be a main strategy.
Yeah, it's number 2. Pretty brutal.
What an amazing sport. My number 2 is chess boxing.
Hey.
It's back, baby. We already talked about it, so we have to spend a lot of time on it, but it's the coolest thing ever. And I've always wanted to take boxing lessons. There is a boxing gym now, like 20 minutes away from my house. Of course, with COVID, I'm not going to be taking boxing lessons, but maybe this is the sport that I get into in my late 20s. Like, maybe this is my quarter life crisis sport. I'm thinking more and more about it.
Picking up boxing?
Like, yeah, chess boxing specifically.
Oh.
Like, starting a chess boxing league in Indianapolis.
It's a weird sport to recruit for.
Do you like playing chess? Do you like punching people in the face? Now, I know those two things normally don't go hand in hand, but hear me out. What if they did? Also, you really only have to be really good at one of the two of them.
Yeah, that really would be like
You're real confident in your ability, and one of the two of them, you're probably fine.
just some like massive dude who's just moving like one pawn, one space, just like staring down this chess nerd. Like, I'm gonna get you, man. I'm just stalling out as much as he can, just moving moving one piece just back and forth, and just being like, "Come get me."
Just moving his knight forward and then back, and then forward and then back every turn. Look, it's like the mountain from Game of Thrones. And then you have literally the woman from Queen's Gambit on the other side, I think. It's a great scene for that film we talked about earlier.
Just like imagine like a scrawny dude who's really good at chess just being like, check, and then hearing ding, 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 and going, ah, fuck.
All right, let's hit me with your number 1.
Number 1.
Yeah, I just did Gaelic sports because I'm a bum. I didn't want to pick. If I didn't play these sports, I would have also picked just hurling because hurling is by far the wackiest of the two. Like, it just looks silly. Everybody's got like a big wooden stick, and like you can't pick the ball up off the ground. You have to use your stick to like pick up the ball, as you can see here. I'm also a narcissist and use pictures of myself playing these sports.
Hey man, you might as well.
But yeah, like hurling looks like you can like even just like from these two pictures. In the top one, I'm playing Gaelic football, which is just hurling with like a big ball It's kind of like a slightly heavier soccer ball, and just like your leg is the stick, you just kick it instead of hitting it with your stick. And it just looks more like I don't want to say a normal sport, but it like at least kind of looks like all right, you know.
But it does though. Like I don't.
I mean, it does until somebody goes to score and then somebody just like bombs a ball like 40 meters, like through some uprights out of nowhere, and you're like, what is happening? Fun fact: this top picture is from halftime at an Indy 11 soccer game that we got to play at, and they loved it, and they were very confused because literally we would get the ball, pick it up, soccer, you know, frowned upon, and then kick it real hard just into the stands because I don't think we like elaborated on how scoring in these sports works, but you have like a soccer goal. It's like a little bit skinnier than a soccer goal, with uprights like a field goal. And if you kick it through the uprights, it's 1 point. And if you get it through like past a goalie into the back of the net, you get 3 points. So we just bombed this ball over the top of the goal over and over again, and they were like, "What are you doing?" And then, then the score would go up, and they'd be like, "Oh, cool,
Nice.
the ball goes out of bounds. We get points. All right, we're picking this up."
It took me a while to learn all the intricacies of the rules, and when I had to describe it to people, when I didn't really know how to play it, I just said it's Irish Calvin ball.
I
So
mean, you're not wrong.
The rules are made up. I don't know what they are.
Yeah,
I figured out what it is.
yeah. It plays a lot like giant basketball. That's sort of more of the movement. They're trying to force the kick pass into the sport because everybody like you can punch the ball to people, and the Irish don't like that. They think it's not true Gaelic football because it's just more efficient to punch it to people than try to kick it. But like Americans like it because it's just closer to basketball. Then hurling is just silly because like if you're good at hurling, you can hit the ball the entire length of the field in one swing. So like you just get it and you crush it, and then the ball's gone, and then they get it and they crush it right back to you. It's almost like a weird game of like giant tennis. Yeah. But I'm not good, so I just hit the ball like 10 feet to somebody else, and I make them hit the ball far for me. Just play defense, then you don't got to worry about it so much.
My favorite way to play.
Yeah, just hit people. So you can see me try to pick this ball up and like struggling pretty hard, as is tradition. But yeah, that's my number one. Gaelic sports, you should play them. Most major cities have a club. Some are bigger than others, but most have one, and you should check it out. It's usually pretty cheap. It's usually a good time. You get to meet people, you just get in shape. I mean, our oldest member is like 60 or something. Our youngest member, I think, is 17. So like, it's pretty much all ages. So check that shit out. But that's my number one.
My number one is the Baja 1000, but it could have honestly been any sort of off-road, long-distance racing, because I love off-road racing. I race dirt bikes and ride them and have since I was 12. It's my favorite thing in the world, is motorcycles. As we've talked about in an earlier episode we did about fandoms we support, that fandoms we hate that we do actually support. But the Baja 1000 is a race I've wanted to do since I was like a little kid. I will probably never compete in it personally, just because of like a wide variety of reasons. You have to have a lot of money. But technically you don't. But it costs a lot of money to get into it and to get all the proper safety gear. It's like a professional sport. Like people from all over the world that are actually good at this show up and do it. I'm just like some schmuck. But one day I do want to go down and do the Baja course, because it's just roads in the Baja Peninsula of Mexico. Like there's nothing to stop you from just going down there and doing it if you want to. And that's what I plan to do. When they do the race when they do the race itself, it takes like just under 24 hours, I think. It used to take 2 days, and if you're on a motorcycle, you normally have two people, and you switch halfway through when you get the first 5 miles, and your buddy goes on. And if you're in a car, your co-driver sits in the car with you, and you guys like literally switch at any point whenever you want to, and you just go. It's amazing. Malcolm Smith won it for multiple years on a motorcycle. A motorcycle also wins this every year. Well, comes in the first overall time slot. All the different vehicles compete against their own like class. but a motorcycle does get the best time every year, which is almost always the case in any off-road racing, except for I think it's the Mint 400. A truck almost always wins, and it's because the Mint 400 takes place in the desert outside of Las Vegas, and so much sand gets kicked up, you can't ride a motorcycle very fast because you can't see, and you will die and hit a scrub brush.
Yeah.
But it's called the Baja 1000 because it's literally a 1,000-mile race through the Baja Peninsula. It's awesome, and if you ever get the chance to watch it or just go back and watch old footage, definitely do. Even if you're not the type of person that's normally into racing, because like I don't really care for NASCAR or IndyCar. But anything off-road is just because when you're doing something off-road, it just adds 10 levels of craziness to it. I mean, you see that picture, that truck is just leaping through the air right now off of this jump, and it's like that for the whole race. There's sections of it where you'll see them going 80 miles per hour, and the whole trucks are just like each tire is just up in the air. And for the people that are listening to this in audio medium, I'm waving my hands up and down like a crazy person to kind of show the movement of the 4 different truck tires bouncing. I also almost put Hare Scramble here because that's actually racing that I do, which is you do like 40-mile races through the woods, and they do them all through the Midwest and through a lot of the United States and other places too. And you just go, you'll have like you have like a motocross track, and then you'll go into woods for 20 some miles. And it's not like, oh, look, there's this nice path where you race through the woods. They tie plastic around the trees that's like orange or pink, and you just have to like kind of look for the plastic. And there's kind of a trail sometimes, and it's also amazing. But just any type of stuff like that, I love it. I like competing, and I like just going to the places where people do it and doing it when they're not racing because I'm very bad at it, but it's a lot of fun.
No Gumball, the Gumball Run.
You mean the Cannonball Run?
I thought Cannonball Run was the movie that was about the Gumball Run.
No, the Cannonball Run is an actual thing. It's you go from New York to, I think, is it Los Angeles as quick as you can. It was a much bigger deal back in the day. That record has actually been beaten like 7 times during COVID because there are no rules to it. You just have to be in a car and you have to go as fast as you can from New York City to, I think it's Los Angeles. And because there's no traffic, and because the highways in the United States is so much better than it was like even just 10 or 20 years ago, a bunch of people just like rented a Cadillac and went 100 and some miles per hour down highways or through highways from New York to San Diego, or sorry, Los Angeles. And then the record's been broken 3 or 4 times. They used to track the record, and I think Car and Driver magazine. They had some other like magazine that's been around for a long time, and they quit doing it because they're like, we can't in good conscience like support people doing this anymore, because to do the Cannonball Run, you're just being an asshole. Like, but my screen name on both Twitch and everywhere else is Cannonball Baker. It's because my last name is Baker, and Cannonball Baker was actually somebody who lived here in Indiana, and he set the Cannonball Run record in the 30s and 40s, maybe even early 50s, on a motorcycle. He was the first person to complete it, and he had the record for 50 or 60 some years, like a crazy amount of time. And even then, like, they didn't have the highway system in place. But you're on a motorcycle, you don't really need a highway. You can go anywhere. You can fit a bicycle for the most part, especially back in those days, because motorcycles were basically just bicycles with bigger tires and a motor on them, and that was it. But I was called Cannonball. My nickname was Cannonball because of that, and because it evolved when I was younger. I was called Crash because I wrecked a lot, like even more than like a normal person wrecks when learning to ride a dirt bike.
Checks out.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the Gumball 3000. The Gumball 3000 is indeed a rally. I'm not crazy.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, it's the same thing.
I'll look that up.
It's in London. It's not in America.
Okay.
It's literally the same concept, though. A bunch of rich people drive very fast cars across 7 days to go from one city to another city on public roads, and the CEO of the Gumball 3000 swears up and down that it is in no way a race, because that would be very illegal, and it is merely a road trip that they all like to go on their Lamborghinis. I think Jackass did like an episode series on it, like way
That's
back.
Cool.
They got like a
that
real shitty car and like drove the whole thing, and it was just like them and like a bunch of dudes in Ferraris.
Yep.
So
the Cannonball Run is an unsanctioned speed record, typically accepted to run from New York City's Red Ball Garage to the Portofino Hotel in Los Angeles, a distance of about 2,800 miles. As of August 2020, the record is 25 hours and 39 minutes with a top speed of 175 miles per hour and an average speed of 110 miles per hour, driven by Arnie Toman, Doug Tabbett, and Donadel Dariosh. But yeah, Cannonball Baker was the guy who did it the most. He was an unfamiliar. No, this was in memoriam of him. I'm trying to see when he actually did it. There's a plaque, and because he lived in Garfield Park.
Oh shit!
There's a plaque you can read that like has a bunch of stuff on him. Let me see if I can find.
I think there's somebody who did this with like a Tesla, like the autopilot, and they just drove like super fast, and they were like, the Tesla just handles it. We just like lay down the gas and wait for us to get to where we're going.
See, he started his career as a vaudeville performer, turned to driving and racing after winning a dirt track motorcycle race in Crawfordsville, Indiana, in roughly 1904. His most famous victory came in 1909 at the first race ever held at the newly built Indianapolis Motor Speedway on a motorcycle, on an Indian motorcycle. He raced in the 1922 Indianapolis 500, placing 11th in a Frontenac. He was the first commissioner of NASCAR.
Oh shit!
Which is cool. Yeah. Baker set 143 driving records from 1910s to the 1930s. His first was set in 1940, riding coast to coast on an Indian motorcycle in 11 days. He normally rode to sponsor manufacturers, guaranteeing them no record, no money. And you have to say, like, in 1914, let's see if I will just grab a picture really quick. If you want to see what a motorcycle looked like in 1914, it's literally just a bicycle with, like, honestly, tires that today would not pass on a big, like one of those fat tire bicycles, if you've ever seen one of those. And they're crazy. You had to hand pump the oil through the motor, and they would burn. That's why like doing it in 14 days is crazy, because on top of the fact that like the roads didn't exist yet for the most part, these bikes were like hand built, you know, and you had to repair them yourself out of scrap parts that you could find or whatever you could get a hold of for yourself. And these were total loss motors. So there was a pump that you would reach down. Oh, so another thing, they also were hand shifted. So you had a shifter like you do on a car. And when you wanted to shift it, you had to push with your right leg out on a clutch. You had to, so actually you'd pull your leg back because the clutch would actuate based on you releasing pressure on it. And then you had to shift it like a car with your left hand, like while holding with your other hand over here. Versus a modern motorcycle, clutches here, lift your leg. You had to like a gear shift on a car, which is crazy. But then if you weren't paying attention, the other thing you had to do was there was like a bulb down here, like a squeaky bulb from an old, I don't know, cartoon, and you would squeeze it and it would push oil out of a tank into the motor, and it would just drop out on the ground underneath the motor. There was no return system for the oil. So that's what this guy rode across the United States in 12 days on.
Jesus.
Yeah. No, old motorcyclists are hardcore.
That's gnarly.
There's like board track racing was another thing that was really big in the 20s and 30s, and they would ride bikes like this on these small racetracks that were made from wooden boards, and they would use those total loss oil systems on them, and they were banked, and so they would just get coated in oil, right? And people would slide off all the time, of course, because You're riding on wooden boards covered in oil on these glorified bicycles. And sometimes you'd crash and your bike would explode and you would light the entire race course on fire because it's wood covered in oil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'll how does that work? Are you just DQ'd?
you just, I mean, at that point, if you're alive, you're happy, like, I assume.
Like if I'm in first place and I blow up the racetrack, do I get a trophy?
Do I win? No one else survived. Do I win? It's the same thing as a Florentine Football.
You just have to kill enough other racers to make sure I'm in the money.
Yeah. Yeah, sorry, that's a long tangent, audience, and I apologize, but
it's educational.
Yeah.
Well, this has been Five Thicks. You can check us out every Monday. Literally everywhere.
Yeah.
Take a thing. We got it.
Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts.